Okay, come on, baby. Okay, we are live. Sorry, today is a little bit late because I'm not sleeping well last night. Okay, let's read the book. Price controls and legal tender laws. It was natural that people struggled to find ways to escape the destruction of their savings. And the two most obvious methods were: one, to regularly adjust pieces upward as the value of the money went downward; two, exchange their goods and services only for gold coins. In response, the colonial legislatures and the Continental Congress did what governments always do to prevent it. They resorted to wage and price controls and to legal tender laws, with harsh penalties for non-compliance. Under one such law, those who refused to accept worthless money were even described as traitors. It declared, "If any person shall hereafter be so lost to all virtue and regard for his country as to refuse to accept its notes, such person shall be deemed an enemy of his country." Rhode Island not only leveled a substantial fine for non-accepting of its notes, but upon second offense an individual lost his citizenship. When this was declared unlawful by a panel of judges, the legislature reacted by dismissing the judges from office. Oh my god. Oh my god. So what shall we do? 所以法庭到底是干嘛 A substantial fine for non-acceptance of notes, but upon second offense, an individual lost his citizenship. When this was declared unlawful by a panel of judges, the legislature reacted by dismissing the judges from office. 当一个法官小组宣布 was declared unlawful by a panel of judges, the legislature reacted by dismissing the judges from office. Okay, then, as now, those who suffered the most from fiat money were those who held the most trust in government. In 1777, these were mostly the Whigs, for it was they who patriotically held paper money and, as a result, lost their livelihoods and their life savings. The Tories, on the other hand, mistrusting both government and its paper money, passed the bills as quickly as possible in trade for real assets, especially gold. Consequently, as a group, they weathered the storm fairly well. But they often were derided by their less prudent neighborhoods as Tory speculators, hoarders, and even cheaters. It was a period of paper money as a result. 当时 then as now, those who suffered the most from fiat money were those who had the most trust in government. In 77, they were most the weakest. For those who perpetually held paper money and as a result lost their livelihoods and their life savings. The Tories down. On the other hand, mistrust in both government and its paper money, passes the bills as quickly as possible in trade for real assets, especially gold. Consequently, as a group, they weathered the storm fairly well. But they often were derided by their less prudent neighbors as Tory speculators, hoarders, and even cheaters. Tory speculators, hoarders, 囤积者 hoarders, and even cheaters. All of this was painfully fresh in the memories of delegates to the constitutional convention, and as the opening session convened in Philadelphia in 1787, there were angry mobs in the streets threatening the legislators. Looting was rampant. Businesses were bankrupt. Drunkenness and lawlessness were everywhere to be seen. The fruits of fiat money had ripened, and the delegates did not enjoy its taste. All of this painfully fresh the memories of the delegates to the Constant Covenant. 法定货币的果实已经成熟，而代表们并不喜欢它的味道。All of this was painfully fresh. Painfully fresh. 哇，历历在目，令人痛苦。Delegates is a member delegate to the Constant Covenant, and as the opening session convened, 召开 convened in Philadelphia, there were angry mobs in the streets threatening the legislators. Looting was rampant. Business were bankrupt. Drunkenness and lawlessness were everywhere to be seen. The fruits of fiat money had ripened. ripened. And the delegates did not enjoy its taste. Okay. In October 1785, George Washington wrote, "The wheels of government are clogged." Yeah. And we are descending into the veil of confusion and darkness. A year later, in a letter to James Madison, he said, "No day was ever more cloudy than the present. We are fast verging to anarchy, verge, verge, fast verging, 接近 to anarchy. In February of 1787, Washington wrote to Henry Knox, "If any president had told me that there would have been such formidable rebellion as exists, I would have thought him fit for a madhouse." Just 3 months prior to the opening of the convention, Washington voiced his reasons for rejecting the notion of fiat money in answer to the complaint that there was not enough gold coin to satisfy the needs of commerce. He replied, "The necessary arising from a want of spices is represented as greater than it really is. I contend that despite the substance, not the shadow of sin, we are to be benefited. The wisdom of man, in my humble opinion, cannot at this time devise a plan by which the credit of paper money would be long supported. Consequently, the depreciation keeps pace with the quantity of the emission, and articles for which it is exchanged rise in a greater ratio than the sinking value of the money. Wherein, then, is the farmer, the planter, the artisan benefited. An evil equality great is the door it immediately opens for speculation, by which the least designing and perhaps most valuable part of the community are preyed upon by the more knowing and crafty speculators. Oh my goodness，好，42分都懂，但是读不懂，都懂，但是读不懂。天呐天呐！啊，不能这样，这样。OK。Stop。OK。Here。OK。Go。The necessity。啊，今天我们就读到这儿啊。Necessity arising from one of species is represented as greater than it really is. I contend that it is by the substance, not the shadow of the thing, we are to be benefit. The wisdom man, in my humble opinion, cannot at this time devise a plan by which the credit of paper money would be long supported. 目前无法设计出一种计划，使纸币的信誉能够长期维持。Long supported. Consequently, depreciation keeps pace with the quantity of emission. And articles for which it is exchanged rise in a greater ratio than the thinking value of the money. Keep pace with rise in a greater ratio than the thinking value of the money. Wherein, then, is the farmer, the planter, and its benefits. An evil equally great is the door it immediately opens for speculations, by which the least designing and perhaps most valuable part of the community are preyed upon by the more knowing and craft speculators. Are preyed upon, by the more knowing and crafty speculators. shadow, substance and shadow. 普通人的转折。哇，这个话挺有意思。再读一遍这个啊，再读一遍这个。The necessity arising from one of species is represented as greater than it really is. I contend that 我坚定认为 that it is but the substance, not the shadow of the thing. Where I contend that we are to be benefit the wisdom of man. In my humble opinion, can't at this time devise a plan by which the credit of paper money would be long supported. Consequently, the depreciation keep pace with the quantity of emission and articles for which it is exchanged, thus in a greater ratio than the sinking value of the money. Wherein then is the farmer's planter and the benefits. An evil equally great is the door that immediately opens for speculations, by which the least designing and perhaps most valuable part of the community are preyed upon by the more knowing and crafty speculators. Okay, today we will just read the only one sector. Okay, we will continue tomorrow. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.